This is going to be a reaction to a reaction video. I came across a video featuring Jimmy Dore, a comedian and an alternative news channel host. He is reacting to an interview between Andrew Tate and Piers Morgan. They were discussing their perspectives on the current events in Israel. During the interview, they talked about Ben Shapiro, another podcaster who is vehemently advocating for war.
Andrew Tate's talking about Ben Shapiro.
Uh-oh.
Watch this.
So Ben is a warmonger. Ben has been wrong on basically every single issue you can name. He was with you with the vaccine and every other war. Ben is always calling for other people's young men to go and die in some war. He seems to love it. I don't know if he has short man syndrome, but he's always behind his desk calling about how important it is that big, strong men like me go and die. And the reason he tweeted that and said that is because when Hamas and Israel, at the very early in the conflict, I think it was 3 days in, were discussing possible peace talks, he tweeted, no, absolutely not, kill them all. And I said, Ben, as a man who's done his own fighting, because I've had a life of pain and violence, listen to me. Peace is always worth a conversation. What I said is that we should always be prepared to at least discuss peace. He, because he's a warmonger, said, no, peace is not worth a conversation. You're this, you're that, da-da. Because he's always sitting behind his desk. He must have a booster chair, and he's always running his mouth trying to invoke violence and call for war. And I find it kind of hypocritical because a man who's so small he would die if he was slapped on the street, sitting behind a desk and screaming for other people to be annihilated, I think is kind of, it's worse than
It's
insane.
I believe if he was sitting here listening to this, he would say that what he's screaming for is for Jewish people in Israel to defend themselves. And he's a Jewish man.
All Ben does is call for war. And I agree. Defending yourself.
That's not all he does.
That's all he does. And calling for war and defending yourself is very different than genocide. And Ben, like I said,
I found the video absolutely hilarious. Points of it are really funny. There are so many points that are true. Currently, there are two prevailing viewpoints. Those who are thirsty for war and those who really, really want to oppose it. There's no middle ground. In the video, Andrew Tate references, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall see Elohim."
Interests. Yep. And I don't like people who are not advocates for peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, said Candace, who is far more intelligent than Ben will ever be. And she is completely right.
It's correct, but I just find it funny that people only use the Bible when it aligns with their ideas and their thoughts, but they will not take it as a collective whole. But he's correct when he says, blessed are the peacemakers, but it's talking about personal peace on a local level, not talking about global conflicts. Paul also mentioned this in another book saying, live peaceably with all men. I believe it's in Romans. It aligns with the idea of being a peacemaker. It's the same thing. It's talking about a local level. Observing those who are extremely in opposition to the war, you can see they live comfortable lives with financial security. They're focused on building businesses and securing a prosperous future for their descendants, which is perfectly reasonable. They recognize that any major conflict would disrupt their comfortable lifestyle and their plans for the future. They claim to be concerned about innocent lives. I believe they're only concerned for their own. They're really looking out for their own benefit and their own welfare, and war does not suit them. So to clear this up, I'm not advocating for war at any level. However, we must acknowledge that sometimes global events like war are inevitable. They will occur because when you read history and when you look at the Bible, it's the Most High's will. Prayers for peace on a local level are fine, but praying for a global conflict not to take place is wasted energy. I think it best to just be on the Most High side. Let's take a look, and let's start by reading Genesis chapter 14, verse 1. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations. These made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, and Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela, which is in Zoar. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And 14th year came Kedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims that were in Ashtaroth and Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Enims in Sheva Kerathaim, and the Horites that were in Mount Seir, unto El Paran, which is in the wilderness. And they returned, and they came to Emnispat, which is in Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites and the Amorites, and dwelt in Hazan Tamar. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fell there, and they remained, and fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, the brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and brought back his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Genesis 14, verses 1 through 16 describes a war among several ancient kings: Amraphel of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations. They went to war against Bera of Sodom, Bersha of Gomorrah, Shinab of Admah, and Shemeber of Zeboim, and the king of Bela. These all joined forces in the Vale of Siddim, which is in the Salt Sea. They served Kedorlaomer for 12 years, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In response, in the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and his allies attacked and defeated the various kings, including the Rephaims, the Zuzims, Emims, Horites, Amalekites, and Amorites. This all took place in the Vale of Siddim. The kings of Sodom and Gomorrah had been defeated and fled, and their cities were plundered. Lot, Abram's nephew, who lived in Sodom, was captured along with his possessions. When Abram learned of his nephew's capture, he gathered 318 of his trained men and pursued Lot's captors to Dan. Abram and his men attacked at night, defeating them, and recovered all the stolen goods, including Lot and his possessions, as well as the women and other people. The point of this whole story: war is as natural as life. There's nothing that anyone can do to stop it. This great war that is upcoming will take place. You can't pray for it to come faster. You can't pray for it not to come. It's a must. It's not if, it's when. When it says in verse 4, 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled, means they paid him taxes or tribute for 12 years. But in the 13th year, they chose to stop. The kings of Sodom and the rest of the kings no longer wanted to serve Kedorlaomer. This is exactly when you read the Bible what will take place in the future. The new great war will take place just in the same veil or the same way. Revelation chapter 17 verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For Elohim hath put in his heart to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Elohim should be fulfilled. The 10 heads' hatred for the whore will be the same narrative that we read in Genesis. They will initially accept the rulership of the whore, but eventually will reject being subject to her. The shift includes a refusal to pay taxes or tribute. So they serve the whore, but then afterwards they will rebel and come up against her and burn her with fire. According to verse 17, the Most High is the one who instills in them this will. It's not of their own volition. The Most High is the one who's pulling the strings. They will serve the beast for a period of time until the predetermined day when the Most High has destined them to rebel. Also, we have to pay special attention to verse 3. All the kings were joined in the Vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. All the kings agreed to meet in one place. This reminds me of what we read in Joel. Joel chapter 3 verse 2. I will also gather all nations, and I will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will plead with them for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land. In the book of Joel, in the Old Testament, where Elohim speaks of gathering all nations into the valley of Jehoshaphat for judgment, this gathering is for the purpose of judgment or pleading with them concerning his people Israel. Elohim emphasizes that this judgment is about the nations and what they have done to his people. They have scattered his people into slavery among nations and dividing his land. The valley of Jehoshaphat is associated with divine judgment, where the highest will bring them to fight. The point is that in Genesis, all kings meet in one place in the valley of Siddim, and in Joel, the final battle, the Most High will gather all nations into this one valley. In other words, the world and history is cyclical. These things occur repeatedly. That's why we should read this book and study it, not to know what happened, but also to know what will take place. On a side note, Isaiah agrees with Joel. Isaiah chapter 13 verse 4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like of a great people, a tumultuous noise of kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Most High of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. Isaiah chapter 13 verse 4 is part of another prophetic passage that foretells of the fall of Babylon, a major power at the time. The verse poetically describes the gathering of various nations and armies, just like we read in Joel, the instruments of Elohim's judgment, emphasizing the scale and the significance of the impending conflict. Joel says the Most High will gather all nations. Isaiah says the Most High mustered the host of the battle. They agree. They both say the same thing. Revelation says that the Most High put in their hearts to fulfill all his will. All these agree that the Most High is the one pulling all the strings. Isaiah says all nations will be gathered into one place. Joel says the valley of Jehoshaphat is where they will be gathered. These both agree, though not specifically, but you can understand that it's the same event. Now let's read 2 Samuel chapter 11 verse 1. And it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. This verse indicates a specific time of year. It doesn't give you the exact time. Although the text is not specific, it seems to be saying there's just a time when kings go out to war. There's no real reason for the battle. It's just a time when the kings agree to fight. It's just the way it works. There's nothing you can do. We are just pawns in this whole game. To sum this all up, the coming global war is inevitable. Many people who are living very comfortable and have carved up nice lives for themselves do not understand why certain people are just so hungry for war. It doesn't make sense to them because they don't understand it's the Most High is behind their desire for war. The people who do not want war are right when they said there is no logical reason for wanting this war, because they know once it happens, life as we know it has to change. Things will not be good. The only thing you can hang your hat on and know for sure is that the Most High rules all. As Nebuchadnezzar said, Daniel chapter 4 verse 34, at the end of the days, I Nebuchadnezzar lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and my understanding returned unto me. And I bless the Most High, and I praise and honor him that lives forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. We are nothing. We are just grasshoppers. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can stay his hand or say, what doest thou? There's so many people that want to say, oh, if there was a God, this wouldn't happen. But the Most High is the one who rules. In other words, if they were the Most High, they wouldn't do this. But they are not him, nor understand his way. Verse 36. At the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory and my kingdom, my honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my lords soared unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment. Those who walk in pride, he is able to abase. Be very careful how we handle this book in the words of the Most High, and how we deal with his people and how we deal with all people. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.